Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghost and Horror Stories video. Once again, I'm mixing one of these in here from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit Experiencers. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite subreddits because it's a nice mishmash of multiple topics. It could be something involving aliens, UFOs, could be something involving cryptids, could even be something involving ghosts, which I think is the case here. It comes from a user by the name of Atomic Bussy 2. They titled theirs as Night Visitor 1989 Big Bear, California. The thing that makes this most distinct is the fact that I believe number one, it ties into the infamous Hat Man, which I've talked about here in past videos. And there's a treat. There's some drawings associated from the user showcasing the encounter, which I'll showcase here in just a moment. But you're looking at one of those drawings here now. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this encounter here. And then once again, I'll give my thoughts and opinions afterward. So here's what they state. Hi there, new throwaway account, but hoping my story makes it through moderation. I tried posting on the paranormal, but there's a backlog. Hoping to have some discussion, thoughts, theories about my experience. Included a very amateur sketch for reference. I was early 30s and recently divorced. I and my dog Hank had moved in with my brother, who had a spare room at his house up in the mountains near Big Bear Lake. My brother had a business up there that I could work at until I got things figured out and all the divorce court stuff settled. I don't come from a superstitious family, nor have I ever been superstitious myself. I've always searched for a logical explanation, but in the end and after all these years, I've just accepted that something paranormal took place in my brother's house that night. It was a weeknight just like any other. I had showered and got my clothes ready for work in the morning. I did a bit of reading in bed until 10:30 or so before turning off the light and rolling over for sleep. My dog, Hank, was a big, lovable, and very alert golden retriever, gone many years now, rest in peace, buddy. Hank would sleep in my room near the door every night. I didn't use a night light, but the room was lit very dimly from moonlight entering through the only window in the room, and I had a digital clock alarm that would light up the room a bit once your eyes were adjusted. This happened around 1:40 a.m. Being a light sleeper, I awoke from hearing a quick shuffling sound. I was sleeping on my left side facing the door. Upon opening my eyes, I noticed Hank was standing up, frozen and alert, looking and focusing at something on the side of the room that I had my back to, which was the side with the window. The first thought in my mind was that he heard a raccoon or something outside. There are lots of critters up there, but it was odd that he didn't acknowledge me waking up. He stood in the same stance like a stone. And so, half asleep, I didn't think much of it and went to roll over to my right side. And then I immediately froze in fear halfway through my turn once I was on my back. I could see the silhouette of a dark figure standing over the side of my bed, no more than a few feet away from me. My first thought was that it was a burglar. I lay there frozen for what felt like minutes, though it must have been only 5 seconds or so, trying to take in the details of the shape. It was about 6 feet tall with a very slender stature and was wearing something that resembled a wide brim hat. Always a big takeaway from the story when I tell it. The neck, arms, and torso were quite long, and I couldn't make out if they or it had clothes on. I couldn't make out the facial characteristics too well, but there was a light shine or reflection on the eyes from the digital alarm clock I had on my nightstand. They were black. The eyes were the scariest thing, and I began to question if it wasn't even a person at all. This thing stood over me, just peering at me, knowing that I was staring back as well. Hank began to let out a low growl, and my heart began pounding so hard. I felt like you could literally hear it. I remember thinking to myself, what's next? What do I do? I was too afraid to move. And so I closed my eyes tight, hoping it might be gone when I opened them. Hank kept growling. I opened my eyes, but it was still there, this time with its arms raised. I couldn't breathe. I was so afraid. It reached out and placed its hand on my stomach. The feeling of the hand on me made it all too real, and my body clenched up with stress. I felt every muscle in my body tighten. The hand was large but very light. It wasn't pressing down. I can't speak of texture as I had the comforter over my body, but I definitely felt the presence and spread of fingers, no idea how many. Everything suddenly felt wrong, and I was filled with dread as a hopeless feeling washed over me. I guess the best way I can describe it is I was feeling this thing's energy or intention, and it certainly wasn't positive. After it rested its hand on my stomach, Hank started barking as loud and as vicious as he could. This snapped me into a fight or flight state. The shape quickly withdrew its hands, and I jumped out of my bed and dove over to the wall near the door, fumbling for the light switch. It remained standing in the same spot, and I remember feeling like I was about to fight for my life. I knocked some pictures off the wall, making a lot of noise before flipping the switch on. Hank kept barking and yapping amid this chaos. In a typical cliche fashion, the visitor vanished when the light came on. Like changing a movie frame, it was there in the dark and then gone in the light. I hadn't even taken my eyes off it. The door was closed, the window was closed and locked, and there was nothing in the closet or under the bed. It took me a bit to muster up the courage to look. My brother woke from all the noise and came in asking what was going on. He could see myself and the dog were all worked up. I told him what happened through heavy breathing as I tried to catch my breath. His wife and 2 kids also got up, but he gave me a look and I knew I shouldn't traumatize them. I just told him that I had a bad dream. And so I laid awake on the couch with the lights on, watching TV for the next few nights. My brother questioned me about it at work the next day and made me promise not to bring it up in front of his wife or kids, and I never did. It took me a while to sleep in that room again, and I always kept a baseball bat nearby from then on. Nothing ever happened. I moved out of state for a new job 6 months later, met a wonderful woman, and remarried down the road. I've told her about my experience that night, and she jokes about the hat part and calls it the space cowboy story. The term makes it a little bit more lighthearted story to tell, but I'll never forget the terror that I felt. Thankfully, I haven't seen my space cowboy again to this day. Thanks for taking the time to read my experience. Then that's it. That's everything from the user Atomic Bussy 2. So let's talk about that here. You see how, like me and probably yourselves out there, whenever you hear about this, a creature that is all silhouette in black, tall, skinny, and of course, has a wide brim hat, again, all black as well, you can't help but think that it is the Hat Man, the infamous Hat Man, the most dangerous of all the shadow people that are out there. And in fact, the comments on this particular story or this post are the same. Several users there are stating that they believe it's the Hat Man as well. So here he is, essentially this user just in his brother's house and somewhere there instead in the mountains near Big Lake, and he's there just temporarily. And it's right during that time, again, he said 1989, and this was at 1:40 a.m. when he met that Hat Man. Makes me wonder if the brother ever had any experiences like that as well in that house. It's curious that the user never mentioned that the brother said anything else too, like saying, I know what you're going through, or watch out in this room. There's things that usually happen. No, this seems like this is brand new to not only the user, but the brother itself. In fact, if anything, the brother seems to be more of a skeptic when he was giving him that eyeball as far as don't tell the wife and kids about anything. Not meaning that they knew what it was, but meaning like don't scare them about whatever happens because they don't want to have anything impact them. So I got the impression again that the brother never went through any of this. It just happens to be this user. But what do you guys and gals think? Is this truly another Hat Man experience? If so, it is one of the closest encounters yet, if not the closest one, because of the fact that you had this thing move its hand and basically push it right into the user's stomach right then and there, almost like it was feeding off of the fear and it wanted a more close direct contact with that creepy stuff. But let me know what you guys and gals think. All right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.